Distinguished members of German Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, good friends of Taiwan, thank you for being here. Good evening. This is really my honor, my pleasure to be here and to chat with you. I think my talk here will touch upon the issue I guess many of you are concerned with, which is how to combat climate change, hands in hands together. I prepared some slides here, so in front of you, I think you can see it. I will go page by page. So the topic is climate change policy in Taiwan. When we talk about global warming, there's a global warning. That is, we sink or swim together. And please make Taiwan part of the solution. From Taiwan to Paris, the COP21st, I think Berlin is on the way and very important stuff. That's why I'm here. There will be 4 subjects I would like to cover. First, I will give you a brief introduction about Taiwan, particularly to emphasize on greenhouse gas emission situation now in Taiwan. Secondly, I will talk you about Taiwan's climate policies. And third, which is the main part of today's talk, which is about a new act we just passed and been inactive since July, which is Greenhouse Gas Reduction and Management Act. In the conclusion, I will emphasize on international cooperation. So first, about Taiwan and greenhouse gas emission. Taiwan, also known as Formosa, it's not a big island, only 36,000 square kilometers. But however, we have a dense population, 23 million people living on the island. So it's only 1/3 of the island is plain and also low hillside. So basically people are living there very condensed. The 2/3 of Taiwan is mountain. So we have very steep mountain slope. With the highest mountain we call the Jade Mountain. The height is close to 4,000 meters high. Taiwan is situated both in the tropical and subtropical zones. For different reasons, Taiwan is enriched in biodiversity. I know many of you have visited Taiwan. If you noticed on our mountain slope, you see black forest, just like here in Germany. So many people first time saw that get amazed. Why? It's because really through geological time, Taiwan Strait sometimes dry up. So all the species can come from the big Euro-Asia continent to Taiwan, basically, if put it a simple way. So Taiwan really enriched with biodiversities, many species, from forests to frogs. About 1/3 of those species is endemic. Small island has more than 50,000 species, which is about 1.5% of the world. However, on the other hand, as I just mentioned, dense population and heavy traffics. This is the photo taken in the morning time, people swarming into Taipei City on their motorcycles. You can imagine how serious it can be when we talk about air pollution. Also, Taiwan is on the track of different typhoons. Every year we have at least 4 typhoons hitting Taiwan. So in the recent years, we suffered, I would say, a lot from these extreme weather events. For example, in these years, in the beginning, we worry about drought. However, just last month in the beginning, we were hit by a big typhoon, and flooding becomes a problem. So alteration between droughts and floods really is the thing we are facing with. And this somehow, I would say, is related to our natural environment and also extreme weather events. Just for example, here, two photographs here showing the damage caused by different typhoons. The under one, the lower panel there, shows the precipitation amounts through years. You see the average trend showed by that linear line. You see an increasing trend. That means every time when typhoon hits Taiwan, now through the history, through the last century, the accumulated rainfall increased through time. Also, please note the three arrows there depicting the three so-called outliers. Those are the high numbers, high precipitation amount. Just look at the rightmost one, just hit in 2009. The total amount of the rainfall is about 3,000 millimeters in 2.5 days. So that is a big amount. Now, talking about the greenhouse gases, there are 7 greenhouse gases now. We are talking about it. This is a pie chart showing the composition of different greenhouse gases in Taiwan. Notably, the major part, the most significant part is carbon dioxide, which occupies about 95% of the total greenhouse gas in Taiwan. And the other 6 occupied only about 5%. Now, from this green part, which is carbon dioxide, you can see that basically contributed by energy sector. Here, for example, the electricity is generated by coal, by natural gas, and so on, which contributes a lot of our greenhouse gas. So in other words, when we talk about climate change, when we talk about greenhouse gas emission, the other side of this coin is our energy and the portfolio of this energy. Here shows you the historical trend of our carbon dioxide emission, which is the blue line. Please first look at the blue line. The pink line. That's the absolute number. You can notice that the peak time is reached about 2007. That was before now the current KMT or President Ma took office. Ever since this regime led by President Ma, you see that the pink line there becomes leveled. That means without any increasing. So I will later on kind of do the analysis of this trend in the next few slides. But before that, please look at the blue line there. The blue line is so-called emission intensity. That means how much carbon dioxide or greenhouse gases is emitted or was emitted when you have $1 of GDP, Taiwan yuans. So that is called emission intensity. You see a decreasing trend ever since, I would say, 2004. Later on I will analyze how it came from. So this blue line tells us that in Taiwan, actually the efficiency of energy becomes better. And also there are other parts I will touch on a little bit later. Now, if we look at the record from 2008 to 2013, here the different color bars, color represents different energy, and also different sectors, I should say, different sectors. They are energy sector, service sector, residential sector, individual sector, industrial sector, and agricultural sector and transportation sector. Those six sectors are very important cornerstones or components. Later on, we also will discuss. Now, from this graph, you can see that actually not much change in the distribution of these six sectors. Later on, when we talk about greenhouse gas management, in the long run, in the long way, actually we are trying to change the distribution there. This is the different, again, pie charts of the different sectors of last year, 2014. You can see that energy sector really is the major part if you see the left one. On the left, on the right side, here, the consumption side, industry is also a very important one. Taiwan is a country with or supported economically by exporting. So many of these industrial products actually exported. But however, the carbon dioxide is or was emitted in Taiwan, within Taiwan. So that's the situation we are facing with. In the future, if there is strong agreement on the greenhouse gas emission, since our ambassador just mentioned, if the new so-called agreement from COP21 in Paris will be established, then we have to take care of this problem. And probably that's why we have this new law passed this year. Now here is a little bit kind of complicated. There is a mathematical function here or formula here. Try to decompose the emission into, I would say, six components. So when we study the emission history from 2008 to 2013, we try to figure out which component, which one of those is the major contributor. You see here we got plus and minus sign. Minus means that sector or that component contributes to the reduction or deduction. So when you see that, you can see that minus 37.4, that blue bar, that is the most important one. That is energy efficiency. So in other words, in the past couple years, I think the most achievement done by our government is in this dimension or in this realm. That is energy efficiency. The other one also contributes a little bit, about 3%, which is energy carbon intensity. Meaning, when we produce electricity, we also improve the efficiency. So basically, you can see those two are the one make us to have this kind of leveling off carbon dioxide emission. On the other hand, the orange there, you can see its big contribution here. That is the GDP. So when GDP increases, naturally you will burn more coal or other fossil fuels. And this is the story this picture tries to tell you. Now let's move on Taiwan climate policies. Basically, two parts. One is mitigation, which is about the reduction of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases. Then the other is adaptation, which is to improve the infrastructure to make the society more resilient when we face any natural hazard or disasters. Now there are many sub-items. For example, at this adaptation side, we try to prevent disasters, we improve our health service, we try to conserve our biodiversity and our agricultural aspects. Also, in energy sector, other infrastructure, water resources, then use coastal areas, all are considered. However, today's talk I will emphasize on this mitigation side. So there will be, for example, several acts there, and the one now color-coded by the yellow one will be today's emphasis. Just a little bit about the national adaptation policy here. From the left-hand side, that is executive yuan. Now EPA, now I'm in charge of, is one of these ministries under this executive yuan. Now in this yuan, we have a National Council for Sustainable Development, and under this, there are task forces for different adaptation works. And to the right-hand side, you see here are several sectors, just covering what I just mentioned. And different ministries are responsible for those jobs. Now, to the main part or main theme of today's talk. We just passed this in middle of June by our parliament, and then been effective ever since the 1st of July. In this law, actually, there are three major aspects: mitigation, adaptation, and green growth, respectively. I will touch a little bit on each of those. Now here, this act actually has 5 chapters here, and 34 articles underneath it. Those red ones are the most important ones. We don't have really much time to go article by article, but later on, if you are interested, we can go back, revisit these. In this law, we have a long-term goal, which is cut emission by 50% below our 2005 level by 2050. That's our long-term goal, which is stated clearly in this law, in this act.